Guys, if you're enjoying this content, hit that follow button. If you happen to be new here, right, just wandered into the channel, right, what are they talking about, right? If you like this, be so kind, hit that follow button right now. Make sure notifications are on. So I'm going live. We do this 7 nights a week. 7 nights a week, we we are around. So we want you to be a part of this. Hit that follow button. And follow us on social media. Make sure it's social and chat. For our social media, we got Twitter where we tweet things, right? And we got Discord, Heart and Soul of the community. We do everything in Discord, including Open Panel. We'll have right after this. So check out Open Panel. And then, of course, YouTube is where we all post the VODs. If you missed any of this, check out our YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, and consider becoming a YouTube member. Hitting that join button, supporting us that way. It helps out a ton. Okay, great. I've gotten really good at saying that really fast. So we're going to go to our next topic. We only got about an hour for it. So guys, for intros, keep it snappy. So we can move this along. All right. I can't snap. I can't actually snap when I'm saying that. Okay. Let's go. During the BLM protests, police brutality was brought front and center. The nation grappled with what exactly should be the extent of police powers. However, the opposite was really discussed. How far can civilians go to defend ourselves against the police? Should you be able to punch an officer? What about draw a rifle on them? What implications does this have for the rule of law? Again, credit to Stardust for being so helpful with that, coming up with that last night. So let's go to Bam for our first statement.
It was kind of crazy this question came up because I was actually like a villain on a panel for this take in the past. But yeah, I believe that I don't think the citizen should be able to attack a police officer. Like this, for the state to function, they have to have a monopoly on violence. But like the concept of people like making physical efforts to escape, so that means like running away, and that means like the other things that come with running away, as if like if the cop, it's not a game of tag, if the cop grabs you, you might throw him off, you might punch him. Like these can be extra charges, but I don't think this justifies like, oh, okay, now we can murder him because we're like scaling up the crap. I don't know. This was a big fight thing, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Wick.
Okay, so there are like very niche circumstances where I think that in these very extreme cases that you might be, I would advise you to, yes, fight against the police, but they're very rare, and so very extreme that I don't think they're worth talking about. Um, Even if you feel morally justified, and even if you are morally justified in trying to punch a police officer or draw a gun on a police officer, even if you feel 100% in the right, even if you are, doing so is never a good idea. They will kill you. They will beat the shit out of you. You will go to jail. You will suffer the consequences. You will make things worse for yourself. So again, regardless of whether you're morally justified or not, do not do this, gang. It's a bad idea.
Wick. Or Wiggle, sorry. I can't
Oh,
tell
yeah.
the difference.
This just look the same.
Yeah, so if a police officer like hits you in the fucking face, you should be able to hit them back in the fucking face. You should be able to do those things, but you can't. And because you can't, and that's that's the nature of this agreement, there should be more restrictions on like police. That's about it.
Stardust.
Right. So I think that in most circumstances, it's a bad idea to use force on a police officer. And I think that's for a good reason. Police officers are meant to uphold the law. They're the ones who are supposed to be able to use force to make sure that other people are safe. There are a few cases where I can see using force may be justified. Great example we all know about is Kenneth Walker and Breonna Taylor. The no-knock warrant that happened, and the two of them, had no reason to know that this is police intruding in their living space. So, like any normal person would do, they tried to defend themselves. And Kenneth Walker was cleared of all charges when he was tried for, I guess, attempting murder on an officer or whatever, because it was reasonable that he was defending himself in his own place. So I think there are very few cases in where this is like acceptable. I think in most cases you should not be able to assault a police officer because it'll usually fuck up a situation. So, but this one was just a fuck situation in general. So,
Ashley?
I take Germany's position on this, where they generally say that freedom is a basic human instinct, right? So I don't think that you should be charged for trying to escape or resist arrest. So I would say that in those cases, pushing an officer off, right, or something like that, that wouldn't be necessarily enough for like a full-on assault charge, but just like a minor. I think that you shouldn't ever be charged for trying to resist arrest, but I think you should be charged for anything that you do in trying to, if that makes sense. Like if you cause property damage, if you break through a window or something, I think then, yeah, you should be tried for that. But inherently just trying to resist arrest, I think is fine. So I think that like violence to do that, very minor forms of violence to do that, I think.
did you say freedom is an instinct? Is that what you said?
The law considers freedom to be a basic human instinct. So like if you escape prison in Germany, you won't get time added to your sentence. You'll just have to serve out your full sentence. It's not illegal to escape prison in Germany.
That's actually quite interesting. That's super interesting. Thank you for that. Half-Baked Takes, can you be that interesting?
I cannot be as interesting as Germany's weird fucking rule that you don't have to. You're not gonna get any. Hey man, try as many times as you want. Doesn't matter. But no. So I guess it's important to say like, yeah, there are certain circumstances where this is accepted, but like Stardust, you brought up the Breonna Taylor and I'm sorry, what's his name again?
Kenneth Walker.
Kenneth Walker. So the reason he ended up getting charges dropped is because it was assumed that it was he didn't know it was the police that were coming
Yes.
in, right?
Mhm.
So like that this argument kind of loses, like we don't even talk about that because it's not really the same thing, because we're saying it was not acceptable for him to shoot at police, but because he didn't know it was police, it's totally fine. We're going to let him off. So other than situations like the Kenneth Walker situation, I don't see it as a good idea for you to pick a fight with a cop. Because like Wick said, I promise you, they will shoot you in your fucking face before they let you get their gun. And that's just the way it goes.
Okay. Let's go to TP.
Yeah, I think don't resist police. I don't give a fuck what Germany's doing. Cops have a monopoly on violence. I think that's a good thing. Don't use physical force against police. Simple.
Okay, last username, please save me, because like we got a lot of group think here. Last username of the only independent thinker we have around, please.
Okay, so I took this question to mean, can you violently defend yourself? Can you use force to defend yourself against police? Not just can you attack the police for fun? Obviously, I don't think you should be able to do that. But if the question is, can you defend yourself against police? Then the answer is yes, you should and you can. There have been cases where people have been acquitted of even killing police because it was justified self-defense. You're talking about the one there. There's another one. This guy AJ Coffey, who was recently acquitted for, I think, killing some officers who were raiding his house, and I think he was even guilty of some crime. But the officer didn't properly announce themselves, and he fired back, and I think he killed one of them or something, and he was later acquitted because they decided, well, he was.
But that would be the same
police.
thing, right? Because they didn't announce themselves, so it'd be.
They didn't know.
The point is, it was justified. So yes, you absolutely can do that. The question, should you do that? Well, I mean, I guess if the alternative is the police are going to hurt you, then maybe you have to. But I think in most situations where this happens, it's where the person doesn't know, where they do a raid. And I think the solution to avoid brutality, though, is not for people to more aggressively defend themselves. It's for the police to less aggressively try to arrest them so that they don't have to defend themselves. So yes, you can defend yourself. I don't think that's like a solution to making the justice system work better. I think the solution is rather to reduce the powers that police have to use force against people. And actually, I support a legal system since I support a market legal system where there would be no special right that police have. Everyone would have whatever, the same rights that people who are employed in enforcing the law have. And that would include, so you'd have people who had more rights, slightly more rights to defend themselves. Police would have less rights. And I think that's ideal.
So
Last
can I
username, thank you for making points that I was gonna make. Right, last username, independent thinker. Right,
Sure you are.
No, I was okay. Fine, Wick.
So I really want to push back against you on this one, Ashley, because the problem is, and I've seen this happen. I've seen this happen in nightclubs. I've seen this happen on the street. I've seen this happen in a lot of various things. Yes, I understand. Like, there is a natural tendency to try to resist arrest or this thing, but what happens when you do that? When you turn to try to struggle and punch the face, and why I would be dead set against advising anyone to do that, is then the cops will escalate the violence. Violence escalates.
I'm not advocating for
violence.
people to do this.
I
It's a
understand
different
that.
conversation with.
Yeah, the question is, what are the consequences if somebody does it? And I think Ashley's. I like this principle, and I understand it, that as long that you should be given some leeway to defend yourself against the police if the police are
right?
using force against you.
Named a few
Not
situations,
infinite leeway, but
and
some, for
Stardust
sure.
has named a few situations where you are. We do allow for these things in very very narrow circumstances, but to just
Probably not
as a
enough.
blanket
Not in
statement,
America.
and as a blanket statement to say, oh, you should just be able, when you disagree with what the cop is doing, to violently, and that's a key word here, violently fight against them. I think
didn't
that's
say
the
violently
road.
fight against them.
But that's the prompt, right? That's the
thing
prompt.
is,
When is it okay to
I'm
use
pretty
violence
sure,
against
someone
cops?
correct me if I'm wrong.
Clarifying,
And
I mean like very
and you
minor
said you were
violence,
okay,
like
and you,
shove.
like again, but violence escalates. That's violence. Like, it's minor violence, but that's.
But what if you're
violence,
not
and
even
it
escalating it?
So
I
I've
think-
seen this happen.
In
Let me
America, the
finish my
police
story.
can like tackle
I've seen
you,
this
and if
happen.
you even like squirm to try to avoid the tackle, you can be charged with assaulting the police officer.
Yes,
Right?
and you're in his
That doesn't
buddies.
seem very reasonable to me.
And his
I-
buddies, once you push him off successfully,
Yeah, but we're
his
not
buddy
talking about
cop
that. We're not
officers
talking
are all
about
going
whether
to
you
beat
should
the
do
shit
it.
out of
We're talking
you.
about could you be charged with assault just because you fought back when the police initiated a very violent attack against you?
Well, you would
Yeah,
be
there's a
allowed-
different. Yeah, there's a different conversation. Wick, you're saying you're asking like,
I'm
what
talking
would
about
you-
survival.
What would you
We're-
advise like the
Yeah.
person to do? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
we're
we
not
would
talking
advise
about that.
everyone that we're
Talking about
saying
right
that
and
like
wrong.
in cases that it happens, are the police now justified in shooting you? And I'm F it, we're doing it again. We're going 2.0 of this conversation. My example of a case that everyone thinks is wrong is Rashard Brooks. This was involving a guy who was shot in the parking lot of a Wendy's for being drunk in his car, and they got him out of the car and basically they were going to arrest him. He was drunk. He pushed them off. He ended up punching the cop in the face. He went to run off, and they shot him. And
He took a taser. He took a
took a
taser
taser.
and shot that taser
No,
at the police
that
officer.
is a-
Yes,
That's a
he
really
did.
bad faith description. That's a really bad faith.
That's
Wait,
a
you
bad
just- it wasn't a bad faith description? Like, what are you
No,
talking about?
fucking
Literally
shot
exactly.
Oh, he ran away and they shot him.
No,
Like,
no,
what? Come
no.
on.
Like I said, and while running away, not even looking back, he fired off a taser. That he didn't
Oh,
like.
I
he
don't
wasn't-
care.
there's-
If you take a
there's
cop's
the-
It was in the
taser,
process of. Hold
Nope.
on, let me just finish. It was in the process of fleeing the scene. They had his car. They had his address. They could have met him at his house. They like literally. I just think that I wouldn't go as far as Ashley to say that there shouldn't be any tasers.
I don't
aren't-
think-
The
I
way,
don't
the way you,
think
said-
Ashton
the way you
made
said
that
that he punched him,
But
because
I'm-
you
no,
know,
I'm saying-
he
but I'm
ended up
talking-
punching one of them in the face. He was like wrestling with them both on the floor for like a long time before he got away. Like what? The way you presented
This
this
is-
is
Yeah,
entirely
this is
yeah,
what
this
I'm-
is not a great
bad
example.
faith
It's
as fuck,
an
them. I'm
absolute
sorry.
perfect example because the only time we're describing like, oh, if you don't know the cops, or oh, if you lightly push, but this isn't how people escape for their life, especially people who are intoxicated. I might punch you in the face. Like if you reach for your taser, I might grab your hand, and then if I grab your hand, I may grab the taser.
Should there not be
that's not.
consequences for that?
No, wait a minute. No, I'm saying that I'm not. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm not going as far as Ashley to say that like, oh, there should be no added charges for resistance arrest. But I'm saying that doesn't meet the threshold
didn't
of
say
murdering him.
They said that there would be
Wait,
like
holding the taser pass.
No,
and
Ashley
firing
said
at
that
a
it
shop
bad.
was
No,
what
Ashley
met-
said there
what
shouldn't be
met
a
the
charge for
threshold.
resisting arrest.
Well, I want
What
to
did you
clarify
say?
my position if you're
Yeah.
gonna talk.
Well,
about
I'm just
it.
saying.
I think
heard you
that
say that.
anything that you do that would be against the law in trying to resist arrest, I think is fine to charge you for. Like in that case, yeah, that guy should be charged with assault, right? But like, I think that if you don't really assault somebody and you're just trying to escape a situation, I don't think that should be a charge. I
But
don't
what do
think
we think
that should be
escaping
a
is?
charge.
Like that's what I'm saying.
Like
We're
trying
drawing
to
up this
run
word.
away.
Damn,
But what do you
wasn't
think? How do you think
trying
people
to
try to
escape,
run away?
though.
Do you think that means
Damn.
maybe punching someone off, get
Damn.
involved?
This is different. This is different ideas of like the principle that was described, at least from my perspective, was that people have an instinct to want to be free, and they're going to do this regardless of who they are, what skin color they have, and whatever. And so therefore, the law is going to work around that, not without that.
Damn,
And so
damn.
they're describing how well the law incorporates that it's natural for people to do such. It's not anything more than that, at least from my determination.
Bam, like a more sympathetic case is like the Walter Scott case in South Carolina where the guy ran away, had his back turned, and the cop just fucking shot him.
Sure,
And
that's
that
easy
cop-
though. I don't care about the easy situation. I care about the gray areas, the real
But
life
I would-
situations that people having.
I
I would
don't
not
need the
call,
gray area when somebody
I would not
uses.
call stealing a cop's taser and then trying to use that taser on a police.
No, but no. This is
Hold on,
why you're
Tim,
being
I'll
bad
let
faith.
you
I'm
finish.
going to tell you, and this will be real quick. This is why you're being bad faith because you're describing the situation as if he was aggressing the police officers and not running away.
Them on the
Was he
phone
running away?
fucking
If he was
ground
running
for
away.
like
Tried to
30
tase
seconds.
them.
He was trying to escape.
Well,
Yes.
if it was a rifle or a pistol,
He
and
wasn't
they were
just running away.
and shooting behind them, would that be different to you, Bam?
Yes, that would be different. That's like a long range version. This is a guy running away. They're
Incapacitate
chasing.
the officer. I'm not trying to suck these cops' dick. I'm just telling you, a taser can incapacitate an officer, and they will treat that weapon the same way that they would treat a lethal weapon every single fucking time.
They're chasing him.
Yes, and he tried to shoot them with a weapon that could incapacitate them. I'm sorry, a police officer is going to treat that weapon as lethal every time. And I know you don't like it, but that's just training, and that's how the shit goes. If that weapon could
Super
cause
dangerous.
a situation where I lose control of my weapon,
But
it's over.
he's escaping.
Over.
We're not going to describe him as an aggressor. He wasn't an
Tasers
aggressor.
are
Are you a
very
cop to have big
dangerous.
takes?
It doesn't matter that they're dangerous. It matters if someone's running away, and a rock can be dangerous. But if I'm running away and I throw a rock back at you, it can hit you in the head to kill you. But that doesn't give someone the
Rock
reason
is
to
a
pick
beautiful
up
country.
like they're gonna pull out their gun and shoot you because you threw a rock while you were running away.
Bam, I'm as red as my microphone cover right now, and I'm sorry. I'm not heated at you. I'm just letting you know.
No, get heated. Don't
No,
be
you're
a
better
bitch.
like that. You're better like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't
Let's do it.
be a
Yeah,
bitch.
go full baked. Go full baked tonight.
But I'm
Okay.
telling you, it just. I'm sorry. The way you presented that the Rashad Brooks case was just a little disingenuous, man. Because he
Just a little,
was
okay.
fighting with the police officers. He got up. He ran away. He did. He tried to incapacitate the officer with a taser. But
He
there's
tried
a
to
lot more
incapacitate?
to that, and that. They would not have shot that man had he not taken
he
the
didn't
taser
resist.
away from him. No. They didn't shoot him when he started to fight them on the fucking ground.
They pulled for their tasers whenever they were fighting them.
That's not a fucking gun, Bam.
But I'm
That's
saying-
very different.
But what do you think? What do you think resisting looks like in that situation? If you reach and the guy reaches that, like he didn't like, oh, I'm gonna get the like this guy's a drunk
Just
guy
hesitating
sleeping in the
as
parking lot
fuck.
at
I ain't gonna
Wendy's.
lie,
If you reach
Is
down
that-
while we're
is it
fighting,
him being
I'm gonna-
intoxicated, like, look, really quick, Bam, you keep mentioning he's intoxicated.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
a
that makes the
huge
situation more dangerous. This makes the situation more dangerous because
You can't use
again,
intoxication as a justification, right?
Yeah, like
No,
I,
but
I
also-
think
what I-
intoxication
Are we
doesn't
talking
have-
about should the guy be legally responsible versus is it justified to shoot him? Those are not necessarily the same things. I can imagine situations where the police would be justified in shooting someone even though they wouldn't be guilty of whatever it is that's justifying the shooting, right? Because it's dangerous but not necessarily illegal. I can
don't think they
imagine
were justified in
situations like
shooting
that.
him. I think if a
Okay.
drunk guy's running away who's not wanted for anything like violent, I think you let him run away.
If he
That they
didn't
know
take
of.
that taser, it'd be totally
But-
different.
but if he
Bam, I'd
takes
be
your
100%
But if he
right.
takes a taser, I
And
still
shoots
don't
it
think
at
you
you?
kill him. I don't.
Yes. Taser
Have
or
you
Bam,
seen the
can I-
video last username?
my taser
Yes,
or my
I
gun
have. I
is
have seen
getting
it.
shot. He's getting shot.
I would like to know, like, last username seems to have a pretty, like, contrary position, and
Correct.
I would like to know what kind of scenarios would you say are appropriate to use force on a police officer?
I'll allow it.
So the situations where when I say appropriate to use force, I mean you're not charged with a crime for using that force. And I'd say there's got to be something where like you can use force that matches what the police use without being guilty of any extra crime, but you can't escalate the force. Like if a cop comes and sort of tackles you, I don't think should be a crime for you to struggle to try to get away from that. If a cop brings your doorbell and says, you need to pay your parking tickets, I don't think and then you punch him in the face, I think you're guilty of assault because you used more force than the cop was bringing.
Do you think you should then be able to tackle that cop, the cop who tackled you, if you like wiggled away from him? Should you be able to tackle him because you're using the same?
No, at a certain point, it's going to be you initiating violence. Like you're going to have to. There's going to be some tricky bits, but you got to distinguish between someone just sort of naturally resisting force against them and initiating force when they clearly don't have to.
But last username, you don't like the monopoly on
I don't.
violence. Okay, so this all doesn't matter, and I would say like most of us in here are okay with the police's monopoly on violence, as it's typically.
But I don't see why that's relevant. Like this would be true with a monopoly or without a monopoly involved.
Well, no, it's 100% true because the onus is on the civilian to stop fighting with the police officer and not maintain or escalate the violence in any way.
Yeah.
You're giving credence to maintaining a level of violence with police officers that I, and everybody in here knows that you cannot do.
Not
cannot
necessarily.
do.
Actually, I think what last username is doing is saying you can use the same amount of force to get out of that situation, but then once you get out of that situation, you're actually taking the action of disengaging with the conflict, right?
I'm taking the position of like I would vote for whatever last username says, but I understand if half-baked takes, if you were a cop, you would kill me in that situation, and so I don't want to die. So like that's why I agree with like the monopoly of violence. But anything that like last username on this would advocate for that could get passed, I would support that. Like I'm not okay with the monopoly on violence. I just
to be clear, I'm only talking about what you're legally
time.
responsible for. Okay? I'm only talking about what you're legally responsible for, like what you could be charged with afterwards. I just don't like the idea that people are charged with an extra assault crime just because they resisted arrest when the police initiated the violence.
So you and Ashley are basically on the same page with this then.
Yeah.
So Wick and Doobie, then I do want to jump in here because I'm disagreeing as well.
Sure. So one of the reasons that I think that we should not take away the extra assault charge in these cases is because one of the things that we can do as a society, and it's not a perfect tool, but it is a tool we can use, and one that works, is we can provide laws that disincentivize people from taking certain actions. And we want to, as a society, on the whole, disincentivize people from violently or resisting police officers, because we understand that many of the times, like the police officers are trying to arrest someone for a good reason. Not all the time, obviously. I would never say all the time. But in many cases, in many scenarios, there's a very good reason why the police officer wants to apprehend and stop this individual from doing whatever it is they're doing. And to take away this disincentive we have will just lead to more violence. Because now, when you're resisting arrest and you're fighting back, the police has to use more force to overcome you. And this is going to lead to bad situations. We do not want this to happen.
But I don't think you can just justify a law based only on whether it incentivizes or disincentivizes violence, because I think you have to look at what's fair in some situations. I think it's fair for someone to give some amount of resistance if the police are violently trying to arrest them without taking on
what's
any.
Fair isn't my primary concern.
Well, then you're wrong. I mean, then that's not good.
Why would it be?
Because we don't want to live in a world that's unfair. Fair is important to people, and I think it's probably.
Well, you can be fair all you want, but you're going to end up fucking beat to a pulp.
What is the
fair? It's fair, gang. Like what?
So
should we accept it?
Well, let's go to Doobie. Then I'll go. Then we'll go to Ashley.
And so I'm just. This is kind of for last username and Ashley. Because I'm wondering, like, well, maybe more or less username, because he keeps saying, hey, they can use the same amount of force that the cop is using to escape. But what if, like, you had like a cop who's like out of shape, or maybe he's like a short dude, or he's just like pretty weak, or it's like a woman officer, right? And she has to arrest some big dude.
You
And
know what he said? He said, out of shape, weak, short. Oh, maybe it's just a woman.
a
Okay.
woman, yeah.
Go
Look,
ahead.
I'm just acknowledging, reality, okay? So, and she has to arrest like a big dude, right? In a situation where it is legal for him to resist with the same amount of force that she uses to try to arrest him, right? Aren't you worried at some point you're gonna have like women, like female officers being like overpowered by dudes, and
For the male officer,
they need to escalate and bring in all the other guys, fucking Connor's goon squad, or they need
Well,
to pull
they
a
need to do
taser or the
that anyway,
baton.
right?
you have to
Like,
assume that the male officer is
Wiggle,
going to
Wiggle.
arrest you, and
Question
then
is
for the
for me.
female officer, you
Yeah, I
have
would
to
like
ask.
to hear last username answer the question.
Yeah, I'm just worried about a situation when we have like female officers being pushed into closets and like locked in there and shit.
I don't think it's a
because people want to
problem
avoid arrest.
because in that situation, the female officer should not be trying to violently arrest. If she really doesn't have enough force to stop him, then she's going to be in danger anyway, right? So it's
Yeah,
not.
so
changing the law
because
is not going to help her, right?
no, because right now, if people were to resist that at all, right, they'd get tons of charges on top of the original charge, right?
Yes.
So, but you're saying, hey, now we're in a situation where it's legal to resist, right? To physically resist even.
There's
It's
no
not like
deterrence.
having that. It's
I'm-
not like having
This
that
is not
extra
my
assault
position.
charge is going to make it safe for female officers to single-handedly arrest people
You
who
don't
are
think
much
these
bigger
things
than them, right? It's
disincentivize
still going to
people?
be really
It's a
unsafe.
heck
So
of a
there's
lot
no
safer.
point in not
You,
having
you
that
don't think
law.
that these things disincentivize people? Last username.
You
don't
will
think
go
there's no
to
effect
jail.
here?
You will go to jail for
Reason,
20
actually.
Not enough
years.
to matter. Not
Easy.
enough to
I
make it.
disagree.
Minimum
Uh,
if you
Where's
put
the
your
data
hands
on
on the
this?
top.
Okay, I'll let
He does
Do
have
it.
the data.
I'll let Ashley respond first, and I'll jump in because I want to fight.
Sorry. My position is that like if you run away from a cop, if you slightly shove them off of you, not like you tackle them then get up and run away. I would say like if you're assaulting an officer, right?
Yeah.
That's very different, and I'm not for that. I'm not for equal violence against
Yeah,
like officers. I think
same here.
officers should have a significant, if not total monopoly on violence. I'm just saying that I think if you run away from a cop, that shouldn't be, oh, you were only gonna serve like a small charge and it gets bigger off that, right? Now, in violent instances, yes, I do think that resisting arrest in a violent crime, yeah, I would agree that yeah, you shouldn't be allowed to do that. But like in non-violent crime, like let's say you shoplifted and then you try and resist arrest, like I think that that's bad, but like you already have the shoplifting charge. I don't think that trying to escape that is inherently something that should be punished.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm closer to last username and Ashley on this one, right? And the same people in the panel. Yeah. So I feel like as Americans, or well, maybe some of you are Canadian. I think Happy take you're a Canadian, right?
Jesus
What?
Christ,
okay,
no.
I'm sorry.
Oh my
Okay,
God.
I-
All right, I'm
I'm
out.
sorry.
I'll
I'm
see
sorry.
everybody
I went too
later.
far. I went too
Bringing
far.
slurs against your
I
panelists,
went too
Prime?
far.
Bringing
Wait,
I went too
slurs
far.
against your panelists?
Wait, what did I miss? What the fuck?
Oh no!
Prime called this nice young man a Canadian. It was fucking terrible.
Wow.
It might be
Actually,
my fault. Maybe I normalized Canadian here.
Yeah.
Yo, I'm just like, did you hear how he was talking about the police? How the fuck? Like,
Oh, fuck you, Wiggle.
No.
That's where you go.
Okay. Anyway, right. Oh, and the Drakes, thank you for the kind gift sub. Thank you so much. So I think we've normalized violence here. Violence by the police, right? We have cop shows that show like cops like roughing people up, and that's a good thing, right? That's the hero. That's what they're doing. I've told the story before, but I was watching an episode of Law and Order in which the cops went to like a black neighborhood and tossed these guys up against the wall and started searching their pockets, and I'm like, yeah, and they were and the guy said, the civilian said, hey, you can't do this to us. And they were like, no, we can, to stop and frisk, right? Like, we just do whatever the fuck we want to you. And then didn't find anything, they just fucked off, right? Those are the heroes, and the heroes who, like, in the entire run of the show, had never done that in a white neighborhood, right? Like, or to anyone of power, right? But it just assumed within that the heroes will go in and they'll use excessive force, right? They'll violate others, a certain type of person. I think we've accepted this in our culture, right? So when I hear people say, "Oh, well, if you do this, a cop will execute you," right? And then just leave it there as if it's a fact of life, like it's some immutable characteristic of the universe that cops can and should be able to execute you. I'm not wait, can and should be able to execute you, like if you resist force. But that should not be the case. That absolutely should not be the case. In fact, we can create a society where it's not. And we've seen videos, you may have seen it yourself, right? Videos of how cops operate in Europe, where people do have deadly weapons in their hands and have actually used them, right? Have proven themselves to be a threat against the public, but still the cops make an effort to capture them rather than just execute them, like they do here. It actually doesn't have to be that way. There is a different way we don't have to accept that. That's why I hate how this conversation always goes. Well, the cops
There's more guns in America.
The cops are, yes, we do.
What
have
are
guns.
deadly?
No,
when you say deadly weapons, what do you mean though, Prime? What do you mean, like knives and like machetes and shit?
That and guns. In fact, cops here have done that too, right? There have been white people shooting at the cops. There was an incident.
I'm gonna steal the taser.
There was an incident. So this happens here every so often. There was an incident where a white person was shooting at the cops, right? Shooting at the cops when they came to arrest him, and they still managed to get him alive. There was what was that other incident that I was going to say? Cops have shown the ability to capture individuals who are dangerous when they can. When they want to, they can actually do that. But we have this idea, this notion here that that violence is to be expected and it's to be normalized, and in fact, they're the heroes for doing it. In fact, I say no. I say we should be able to limit the cops, limit their powers, right? And if not that, then again, I'm with last year's name here. If not that much, then yeah, you should be able to resist. And like, let's remember, and to Ashley's point, and I'm done. Ashley's point, talking about how these arrests, right? Like they add things on to your arrest for resisting, right? There was a case. There was a case where a suspect got blood on the officer, and they said they assaulted the officer. That was resisting arrest, and they assaulted the officer because the officer they were beating the civilian, right? And the blood got on them, and that was a case of assault, of resisting arrest. Holy shit! This is how that shit is.
Blood on you.
This is how that shit is used.
I understand. No, I understand. I understand. But all I'm saying is, like, cops in America don't shoot people just for, merely wrestling or tussling with a cop. It's when they make the person has to make a direct action for the officer's weapon for them, or they have to be armed with a deadly weapon.
Stop takes. I was going to say that no one is saying that, but then you just fucking said it. So please stop doing that because it's ruining my point. So let me be very clear. I, and most of us, I would feel on here, are not saying that this is a good thing, that this is a good state of things. But we are saying that it is a state. It is the reality in which we exist, so we have to deal with it as it exists, not how we wish it would be. Yes,
no,
I would advocate for taking steps.
No, I said should in the question. Ought.
Okay,
ought.
I would advocate for taking steps. I'm with you. We should advocate for reducing the violence that cops do to the citizenry. 100%. Let's do that. But I do not think that taking away resisting arrest as assault charge, I think, is going to do that. In fact, I think it's going to do the opposite.
If a person
I think it's going to lead to more harm.
A person is going to harm the cops, right? A person is held back. Like, I'm not going to be taken prisoner. They're going to do that any which way, right?
But we're not talking about
this is the argument that
really
make.
We're not talking about the extreme cases, Prime.
This is the argument that conservatives. This is the argument that conservatives
the...
make when they're talking about guns. Like, well, criminals aren't going to follow the laws. Yeah, criminals are. Most people, the vast majority of people, when they are arrested, are taken peacefully. The vast majority of them. You didn't have to have a thing,
and the reason
a law saying that you can't assault the cops.
Because they know if they resist arrest. The reason that's the case. One of the reasons that's the case, Prime, is because they know that if they resist violently, they're going to get extra charges.
Yo,
I'm
how
not
are you guys gonna do this,
for-
bro? I'm seeing the man freak out. Y'all just ignoring it, just having the combo, bro. Yo, let him finish his
The
point.
fucking dude, I get cut off in the middle of the fucking statement, and then like I have two people making a fucking conversation out of my point that I didn't fucking make. Like the Rashad Brooks fucking example from earlier. They fought with him on the ground in a wrestling match for fucking 45 seconds. It took that man to take the taser to run away and deploy it on a fucking cop before that cop was justified in shooting him. He didn't just shoot him when he was on the fucking ground. So let's not act like that's what happened. And I'm sorry I'm heated, but goddamn, Wick, to Doobie, go. I'm sorry, I got my point across.
So I think Prime, you mentioned earlier, hey, when the police want to take someone in peacefully, they can do it, right? And you can find videos of people shooting at police, and those police managing to get them in, without killing them. That's true, right? But what you said there is, you said a white man shooting at police, but we can find tons of videos right now of black and brown people firing at police officers, walking toward police officers with weapons out, with guns pointed straight at their faces, knives out, and not getting just shot, right? Not getting executed in the street, right? And getting taken in peacefully. I don't think so. There's this implication here that police just like they got like this itchy trigger finger, and it's just waiting for the opportunity to murder somebody. Right? I think it's fucking crazy. Right? I think most cops don't want to kill people.
Jesus
right?
Christ.
It happens when they feel like they're pushed into a situation where their lives in danger, and they need to do it to protect themselves and get back home to their family.
And
I
that's
think
the
maybe the disagreement here, the major disagreement here. Wait, really quick. The major disagreement here. Wait, stop. The major disagreement here, I think that Prime was going to have with at least me, is you seem to think that cops should be like required or expected to put themselves in danger, right? And even if the danger is, someone taking out a gun and pointing it straight at their face, right? That cop, even though he's in danger, hey, you should talk to that guy.
That's what
you should try to talk him down.
bro.
And I would say, hey, if you take out a gun and point it at the cop, you should get shot. You should expect to get shot. Right?
You should expect to get shot. You should
expect
to.
to.
Yeah.
No, I think if someone does that and the cop shoots him, it's totally reasonable. If it's a knife, totally reasonable, totally justified. If somebody trying to take the cop's gun or their taser, totally reasonable for them to be shot.
I mean, man, like, from my perspective.
Can I just say, we don't know how many cops also die trying to take people and de-escalate, right?
I mean,
I feel like we would because they have to report it. I feel like we would because they have to report it, right?
Yes, but like her point is nobody ever talks about that, and we only bring up these very small, minuscule. Prime, you shake your head, but there were 19 unarmed black men that were shot and killed in 2019 in a country of 330 million. If you tell me that's a systemic problem, you're lying to me.
Okay. So this is a completely different other argument, right? We can have that argument. We want to have that argument.
Systemic problem. I just think that police officers have a very
let's not go into it because it's a completely other fucking problem. Right? It's more than just people getting shot. We're talking about violent apprehension, right? But like whatever, right? If you can't recognize that, that's fine. I can fight you on that later. But that's not what we're talking about. That's gonna.
I agree with Stardust.
Doobie, I hear you, right? Like you're saying, well, cops can take black people by alive too. Okay, I'll give you that, Doobie. Sure, great. But I the part that I reject, that I completely fucking reject, is this idea that the cops only shoot people when they feel that their safety is challenged, right? And even if that's the case, that means that clearly the cops that we have are fucking terrified children. Right, the results that we've seen from them they're complete cowardice, because when you have a fucking cell phone in your hand, they'll fucking murder you. When you have your wallet in your hand, they'll fucking murder you. Right? There's like there is no room for any like not even confirming the danger. Not even confirming the danger.
Probably more.
Some guy wiggles. Some guy follows your orders. He follows your orders. He stepped outside of his car.
My name was.
He follows your orders. And he's like, you ask for his ID. He's like, oh, okay, I'll get my ID. He reaches for his ID, and then you shoot at him. That's what the cops do all the time.
Hey, no,
so,
Prime,
yeah,
you're doing.
they're fucking cowards. Like the ones who
But
not
something you
all
need
of
to
them,
consider
obviously,
is that
but like these people, the
it's
ones
not
who
just
shoot
the
like
police.
that are fucking cowards, and they shouldn't be on the fucking force.
Yeah, but
Sure.
job of
Okay.
being
Wait.
a
Hold
cop
on. But Prim, I
needs
think
to be-
what you're guilty of when you speak like that is exactly the kind of rhetoric that people use against black and brown people in this country. Oh well, hey, black and brown people commit all these violent crimes, so God,
It's not at
they're
all
all
because
they're all
that
this
would
way.
be genetic.
It
Make
is. It,
genetic
no, hold on.
Last
Hold on.
username also
It is.
There's no
No,
genetic
they'll say that it's a
content.
cultural problem and that black culture is fucking gangs and murdering people, right? So what Prime is telling us here is that he thinks apparently that cop culture is being a coward and shooting people for pulling out their wallet, right? Given that we have millions of, like I think hundreds of millions of interactions between police and citizens in this country every fucking year, and lots of those are very tense, lots of those are in dangerous situations, right? And you still have such a small amount of people that are getting shot when they're unarmed, where there's a question as to please stop. Getting shot is like when they're unarmed or when there's some question as to whether or not it's justified. That's like that very, very small minority of cases where force is used. In the vast majority of cases where force is used, it's totally justified, and there's no question as to whether or not it's justified. Right, so to throw this blanket like condemnation about police in the United States
Fine.
because a
Hashtag
tiny
not
minority
all
of these
the cops.
interactions
Hashtag
is
not
like
all
is so
cops.
silly.
It makes you feel better, right? Does that blanket?
I
blanket
think you're
for?
more productive in the
Okay.
conversation when you're honest about
But-
what's happening. When you
but
don't
I
speak
like-
out
I
against
like-
the false
hold on,
police
hold on,
rhetoric.
hold on.
What the fuck is
I haven't
happening?
said anything in a minute. I haven't said
He
anything in a
hasn't
minute.
He's
No.
he was gonna say something. He was
I-
like in the middle of trying to say something.
I haven't said anything in like 10 minutes. Hold on. I think that like
All three of
we're
you
being
something.
really dishonest whenever we always like it's not just like cops shooting unarmed people. Like we focus on this like little niche situation and we never deal with the entire concept of like police violence. The concept that like what police do isn't always the guy that got shot, and the wrongful situations aren't always just the ones that are recorded like that are reported on. Like police officers do see themselves as like, why do you think they call themselves the thin blue line? Because they think that either it's them and then it's against the criminals, the bad guys in the bad neighborhoods who do the bad things. And maybe sometimes people do commit crimes, but because we consider these people bad people, we think it gives us a justification to treat them physically however we want in society. Like another example I put in chat was Alton Sterling was a guy who he ended up being shot by police, and it's not even about a big shot. But if you look at how the interaction got to how it got there, how we got to this situation, it's not about the end of the situation. It's about the freaking tackling him, slamming his head into the car, pulling out their tasers, handcuffing them, throwing them. Like they created this situation that didn't have to happen because they didn't see him as a freaking human worthy of respect.
Okay, last year's name, since you didn't get to finish. Anyone else just awake and wiggle?
Okay, so in any kind of justice system or whatever you want to imagine, whatever kind of society you imagine, the job of being a police officer has to be safe. And when I say safe, I mean it has to be safe enough. It has to be so safe that you can do it every day for 300 days a year or whatever for 20 or 30 years, and you can be pretty sure that even over those thousands and thousands and thousands of days, you are probably not going to die. And for it to be that safe, the chance of you dying in any one specific situations in which you will have several of in every day, you'll have 100,000 of those situations of your career. Each of those situations has to be really incredibly safe. And that's why I think it seems like police are sometimes they're being way too excessive in force and way too paranoid and cautious, because the level of safety, the threshold for safety has to be really, really high for them. So I think that in the effort to make policing less dangerous to the public, to civilians, where we can make progress is not going to be in making the job of police more dangerous. Rather, it's going to, or making them less able to protect themselves. Rather, it's going to be in police getting themselves into situations that are dangerous. Less kicking down doors and no-knock raids, and less situations that escalate things and get themselves into situations where they're really dangerous, and therefore they have to use force to counter that and keep their jobs safe enough that they can survive the whole careers, right? That's where you want to look to make progress, not in saying police just have to take the risk that every single encounter could be dangerous because they have to trust everyone they meet. They can't trust people that much. They have to be really, really, really careful in all those situations.
Careful doesn't mean execute.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes. So
Sometimes it does. Sometimes it does.
Sometimes when it's actually warranted, though, right? But if
it's going to be different for a police officer than it is going to be for you, an average person encountering, because you encountered that situation once or twice in your life.
I'm asking where you think the level
they
should
encountered
be.
that situation 100,000 times.
Yeah,
they have to be more
I
careful.
hear you. But I'm asking what you think should be the case. So if
I think that police are probably on average.
Let me ask you. Let me give you options
as
here.
they need to be.
So if a person pulls out a wallet, right? A police officer thinks it's a gun, like it's dark, right? I'm giving you an actual real life situation. It's dark, and they pull out a wallet and they shoot them. Should there be consequences for not getting it right? Right? It's like that person might have actually
There will be
thought the
consequences
officer.
for not getting it right, whatever the rules are.
Okay,
But the rules for that.
of-
Imagine you stop thousands and thousands of people over and over and over again. That situation over and over again. Every time they pull their wallet out, it only takes one of those for that wallet to be a gun, and it's over.
Yeah,
that's
but
it.
that's your
but
risk.
guys,
That's
and
your risk.
also there's so much footage online of officers ringing on a doorbell and having guns fired at them, right? There's so much footage online of just normal any interaction that you would think is completely normal, and they're just because they have the job that they do. That what? Why are you making these gestures?
Like
at me?
I agree, Prime. I agree that it's unacceptable for the police to put the public in danger in order to keep themselves safe. I agree with that. The solution, though, is not to just expect the police to put up with more danger.
No, absolutely there is.
Cop cannot just
have to
shoot
find
anybody
ways
for
to
having a
police.
wallet.
If we're giving them
police
the
in
monopoly
more
of
danger
force,
than they are
if
now.
we're giving them
man.
the monopoly of force, if we're giving them all these
Holy
abilities,
fuck,
right? Then the responsibility should meet that, right? Then you have to be right. It does, like, your excuses mean nothing because you've killed an innocent person, right? Like, after that, I actually don't care. I actually don't give a shit, right? Like, you have that power. You have the ability. You have that training,
This
right?
is
Always
not-
talk about their fucking training all the goddamn time. If you can't exercise that properly, right, then you
But
certainly
it's
need
not,
to be off the force.
like, there's no
Then
rule that
not
says
Wait,
you're
but
allowed
Prem-
to kill
prison.
innocent people.
Like, can I
The
ask
rule
you a
is going to
question?
be
Prem, there
what-
are consequences for these
Yeah.
people.
No,
You can
there
say,
really
hey,
aren't.
yes,
Yes,
yeah,
there are.
when?
Prime.
When?
There are.
Prime, holy fuck.
Hold on,
Yes,
these-
there
hold
are.
on.
Wait.
You can't just
I think
shoot
this is
somebody.
really
Yes, you
interesting.
can.
I think this is really interesting because the reason why this is interesting is because initially Prime and Last Username seemed like they were relatively on the same page, but now they've got a fundamental difference. I would love to see that like unfold a little bit more. That's very interesting.
I think that there's
So
like,
what do you want? What exactly
when we
do you
talk
want the
about their
rule to be?
consequences- When we talk about there being the consequence being like, oh, like if you're shot and enough people catch it on camera, then those few cases go to jail. I'm saying that every guy that got his hands hit slammed going into a cop car doesn't face consequences for it, and that's the majority of these situations.
And bam, yes.
So
And
then
oh,
let's
bam,
ask
bam.
Last Username. Let's
Just
ask
acknowledge
Last
that.
Username's question. Let's ask Last Username's question. What was the question, Last Username?
The question to Prime is what exactly should the rule be? How should the rule be different than it is now to stop that from happening? Just shooting the guy just going for his wallet.
If you were wrong.
what is wrong?
I guess it would depend on the exact situation. But if you were wrong and you executed the guy, at the very least, you should lose your ability to be a cop permanently, right?
But how do you know how do you decide if they're wrong? That's the
because
the
they
question, right?
Yeah, because there
It
wasn't
can't just
a
be
gun.
because the guy's dead, because sometimes it's justified.
No,
right?
because the situation you gave me, I'm assuming what you mean is that they are not justified. Because why would you execute someone who has a wallet in their hand and not a gun?
Let's say the guy has the police says put your hand on the wheel or something, and the guy doesn't do it, and the guy like reaches for the wallet or something. The cop then has to decide, okay, I told the guy to put his hand on the wheel. He's not doing that. He's going for, he's reaching for something. If he's reaching for a gun, I'm not going to have any chance to defend
Yes, he
myself
will.
if I wait to see the gun.
Yes,
Not
he will.
necessarily.
You have the
Nope.
advantage in that situation.
That's not
Actually,
a lot of
they do,
time.
right? Actually,
Not a lot of time,
you
Prime.
already have. Cops walk into
You're gonna wait
every
for his
fucking
hand to
situation.
come up? His
Cops
hand could
walk
just
into
come
every
up
situation
and
with their
shoot you
hand.
with
Sorry, hold on.
half a
So the cops walk into every situation with their hands on their weapons, right? If they're nervous, it's always on their weapons, right? You can confirm if there is a gun. You can do that. You can take a beat because it's worth someone's life. It's worth their life. Absolutely.
But if that guy's going for a gun and he wants to shoot the cop does not, the time between the cop seeing the gun and him getting shot by the gun is going to be basically zero.
No,
Not
it's
nearly
not
enough
basically
time
zero. It's not basically
Yes,
zero.
come on.
It's
be
not basically
reasonable,
zero.
That's ridiculous.
Wait, Prime.
If you're ready to draw already, you have your hand on your gun like they do all the time. No, it's not basically, and it doesn't even matter any which way because the cops, like, look, if you're not up to it, that's great. Do something fucking else. That's fine.
But
Do something
Prime, what I'm
else.
saying is
Prime.
the solution to that
But you shouldn't
cannot
be on the
simply
fucking
be
force.
just blame cops if someone gets shot and they weren't going for a gun. It has to be you have to give cops,
No,
you
I
have to come
don't.
up with a better solution to that, a solution that doesn't put the cops in danger.
No,
like,
no.
have
Cops
some
are in
system for.
danger. This is a dangerous job, just like soldiering. Being a soldier,
But it can't be.
Like,
If it's too
you can't-
dangerous,
like, oh, well, you
if it's
shouldn't
so
be-
dangerous
be
that you
shot.
can't
I'm
survive
sorry, you're
because
right.
you're a cop, you're going to
Can I-
die
can
when
I-
someone's
can I
fired,
ask-
at you.
then
I'm
no one will be a
sorry.
cop.
No,
Please
Right?
let
It
me-
has
You're
to
gonna
be.
have turnover like there's no tomorrow. We're
No,
gonna see
great.
exactly what happened.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's not
Do
great.
that.
That's not. That won't work, Prime.
Absolutely.
It's not great.
Prime,
Then
would
the
you take a
police
job where
Absolutely.
you
won't work.
definitely know you'll probably die before
No,
you
no,
get
they
paid?
know
no,
that the
no, no,
military
those
has
aren't the
higher
same
standards
things.
than
Don't
this.
try to sneak that in.
It is-
That's
the
not the
military
exact
does.
same thing. No, it's
The
not the
military
exact
tells you
same
higher
thing.
standards.
Damn, yes, exactly. We absolutely do. We have way higher standards for this. Positive ID
Yeah.
is everything. Listen, I understand this, and this is why I'm Prime. Please don't shake your head right now
Mike,
because
hold on,
everything
no,
I'm about to
do not tell me what to do. Stop that right there. Don't ever tell
Well,
me
you're
what
disagreeing.
Don't ever
Oh,
fucking tell
okay,
me what
whatever,
to do.
whatever.
Don't tell
Cool,
me how
then
to shake
kick
my
me-
head.
then
I'll
kick
fucking
me,
do
my
whatever
bad.
the fuck I want. Don't
Okay,
ever
my
fucking tell
bad.
me what to do. Thank
My-
you.
My bad. I'm sorry that got you heated. But anyway, positive identification is everything. Prime, you've been lying since the beginning of this
Don't fucking
whole
call me a
fucking.
liar. Don't call
I'm
me a
gonna
liar.
call you a fucking
Don't
liar
call me
because
a
you're.
fucking liar. Don't fucking do it. Don't do it. Watch your fucking mouth. Don't call me a liar. I ain't fucking lie about a fucking thing.
Okay,
Don't fucking call me a liar. Do it again. Do it again.
I feel like it's a debate. Are we just heated right now?
I swear to God, like I
I
haven't
agree
got a
with
word
the
in.
woman when
I
they're
haven't
talking
got a
about.
word in
I agree with
edgewise,
them
and now that
I
I'm
agree
telling
with
you that
now.
you were
They're-
incorrect.
Yeah,
If
and
they-
you said the wrong fucking thing. Moving on.
said the
Ashley,
wrong fucking
go.
thing. Moving on.
Somebody
I am
Go.
off mute. Yeah, thank God. Shockingly. Anyway, so positive identification
No,
is
shut
everything.
Up. I said you said the wrong fucking thing. Moving on. Let's go. Ashley.
Oh,
Wait.
Ashley.
I had just wanted to ask. Wait.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Stop doing. I'm
Toss
gonna
this
have
guy
to
out.
toss this
What the
guy
fuck
out.
are you doing?
What the fuck are you doing?
That's all right. Wrong. Go ahead.
I had just wanted to ask Wick. In your opinion, right? With you, trying what I was talking about with the like right to pursue freedom, right? That's in Germany.
Okay, yeah.
I want to
excuse me while I try to change gears from all this too.
Yeah.
Give me a beat, but yes, please continue.
I just wanted to ask on your take on that, which is I'm not for assault being legalized for that or whatever. I'm just saying that hey, like if you run away from a cop, if you do a minor push or something like that, I don't think that should get you charged with like anything significant. Because I understand that the incentive is there to then stay if you don't get charged, but in the moment, the idea is that you might even pursue freedom without fully being able to make that judgment call.
Okay, so the problem I have with this is twofold. One is, as you already said, the incentive, and we recognize that when we have laws like this, we don't want people running away from the cops. In an ideal situation, we don't want people to resist arrest. We don't want that. That's going to lead to bad outcomes, generally speaking. The second problem I'd have is, like, when you say things like a minor push. What the fuck is a minor push? what the fuck is minor violence? How do we judge these things? And it's so vague to me. Maybe if
I
there were
would say
clear
that
guidelines,
that's why we have
that would be
juries.
different.
We make
I would
But
say,
guidelines.
like,
I just don't like that. I do
What-
also want to kind of ask a question to Prime too on the other thing that's going on. So for Prime, if a cop is trying to deal with a hostage situation, okay, someone has a bunch of hostages, guns to their head basically, or whatever, the cops bust in, they shoot trying to take out the guy, but they hit one of the hostages instead. Is that something where they should be held accountable for?
Sorry.
Sure, certainly. So, hostage situation. Cops bust in. They're trying to shoot the bad guy. One of the guys misses, hits one of the hostages on accident. Is that a situation which they should be held accountable for?
No. I
Yeah,
guess I will say
I
for
would
now.
agree with you. So we can at least picture situations where mistakes are made, where the cops do get it wrong, but we are okay with that because we understand, because of the situation that they are in, that sometimes you just fucking make a mistake.
Getting
That
it wrong
legal-
and targeting the wrong person is two different things. Like saying I shot and missed.
No, I get that.
is
I
one
get
thing.
that. I
But
get
you're saying
that.
that you put someone else's life at risk.
But I
that
just
you
want to.
didn't put there?
I just wanted to make sure that there was a difference there, because it didn't sound like it. But I'm glad we had the chance to clarify. And I agree with you that when we talk about these things, like someone dies, that almost does us a disservice, because the majority of the problem is the brutality that takes place where no one dies. Where, as you said, their head gets slammed against a cop door, when they are targeted, where we have these precincts across America. Not every precinct, mind you, not every precinct is like this, but there are definitely problem precincts across America that have an adversarial relationship with the citizenry, and this has led to very bad things. And we need to fix that. I think there are some common sense ways to do that. Ending the war on drugs would fix a lot of these problems, a lot of this adversarial relationship, not in and of itself by itself, but it would go a long way towards that.
I don't know. I think that realistically, like it's really easy to say that like, oh, cops should do this, cops should do that, but like, no, or people should be better. But like the reality is, they did sign up for this job. Last username, the description of the situation he described was basically freaking Philando Castile, and I believe that like humans aren't perfect. The cop might have said something. Maybe I was reacting. I already know you needed my wallet, so I reached for my wallet. Like if you shoot me, if I'm reaching for my wallet, like I'm sorry, you like that I am holding the cop responsible for, because you need to be sure before you put somebody's life in danger. And I know that puts the cop at a higher risk, but like, again, the military is held to a higher standard than this. The military like doesn't get to like if you shoot a civilian, like there actually are consequences that they face. They have their own like judicial system.
To be clear, I'm not saying that the cops are always innocent if that happens. Like Philando Castile, that did seem like kind of sketchy. I'm just saying that I can imagine situations in which a person could be shot even though they weren't going for a gun, if under the right circumstance, and the cop would not be liable. That is, I can see that's potentially could happen. And I think the solution to that is not to just say, well, no matter what, the cops have to make sure that doesn't happen. And if it happens, then they're just at fault. I think the solution there needs to be at some point to change the way that encounter happens, to have some other protocol or mechanism so that the cop is never put into a situation where they have to potentially make a split-second decision that could either save their life or it could kill an innocent person.
I know that protocol. That's not being a cop. That's a situation where you can do this job, you can make the pay, and you can remove all risk from your job. Like
I don't think that's an option to have no cops.
But I'm not saying it's no cops. I'm saying that you're saying that the standard should be that cops should be allowed to exist without taking on any risk. That's the job. That's the same job for a soldier.
If we
it's
want
the same,
people to be cops, we don't
tell firefighters that they don't have to deal with fire. They shouldn't have to deal with fire because fire
You cannot expect someone to take on a job that's going to kill them. No one's going to take that job.
Yeah. Why is it going to
think that that's somehow ethical, it's just not going to work. No one's
You
going to
put
take
your
the
life
job.
at risk doesn't mean that you're
There's
gonna
plenty
die.
of people in
Okay, so you guys
Ukraine.
know how
There's
bad
plenty
the
of people
child
in
welfare
Ukraine
system
taking their lives into their own
is,
hands
right?
with very little chance of success, but they're doing it. They're stepping up to the plate.
They have no choice. Their alternative is worse. But people
Right.
in a society that's not being invaded by Russia, people are not going to choose that. They're going to choose a job where they don't die, like all the other jobs.
Okay, so you guys know how bad the child welfare system is, right? Like how overworked the social workers are in that system, how underpaid they are, how stretched thin they are. They have like so many cases that they can't, how it's like near impossible how they're keeping track of so many of them. I don't want there to be the risks of being a police officer to be so high that we have the same thing happening with that agency as well.
Doobie?
Yeah, so Prime, I've actually been looking this stuff up because I can't remember cases of a cop just shooting somebody for pulling out a wallet and there not being consequences, right? So you keep saying there aren't any consequences when this stuff happens. So is there like a specific case you're thinking about? Because there's like a really famous video of a guy, he's at like a gas station, cop tells him to get out of the car, and then he turns really quickly to grab his wallet and he gets shot by the cop,
Yeah.
right? That cop did go to jail. Right, and he was kicked off the police force. The guy sued the police department. Obviously, the cop admitted that he fucked up, and he was sent to jail. Right, so like,
Yeah, I remember that. I was thinking of that case.
He went to
that's one of the
jail.
cases that happens. But the thing is, that's an exception to the rule, and when it comes to use of force, right? It's like the vast majority. The reason why people were on the edge of their seats for the George Floyd verdict, right, against the cop, right? I forget the guy's name. Fucking him. But the reason why people were some of the white America was on the edge of its seat. Black America was not. Black America has already gone through this, right? So Black America, right, looked at it as like, well, we know what's gonna happen. This guy's gonna get off. Scot-free. We've seen this happen before. So it was a shock to us when he actually got convicted, right? These aren't the rules. These are the exceptions. Most of the time, they don't get charged. So, like, that's the problem right there.
okay, but when you say most of the time they don't get charged, right? The implication there is that they did wrong in the first place. Typically, when these things happen, there's an investigation. The person gets a lawyer. They try to sue. All this kind of shit. And if the cop isn't charged, it's typically because they found that there isn't a good reason for it. Right? In the vast majority of these cases, the cop is totally justified and has found that the cop is justified. So you just said, hey, Black America wasn't on the edge of the seat. They said, oh, we've been through this before. I just told you the guy who got shot for pulling out his wallet, this person you've been using as an example, the cop did get charged. He did go to jail.
Yeah,
right? So where's the rule?
And
How is that an exception?
And I
What about
already
Philando
knew that.
Castile?
That was just an example of a cop. What did I say? The cop should be off the force. That cop should be off the force, right? And that's what happened in that particular
went to jail.
situation. But that was publicized. The reason why we know it is because there's video of it. There's a video of that situation happening. There's video because it was so egregious, and the cop obviously didn't know how to shoot because he actually didn't hit the guy. He shot like a bunch of times. He actually missed all of them. It was amazing. And thank God that he was a poor shot, right? It was shitty. Should have been on the force, right? But most of the time, no, there isn't any consequences. Hashtag Tamir Rice, right? There's no like these people, or they leave the force and they get hired immediately by another district, right? It just happens. These things happen.
Wait, so, because I don't, sorry if you guys can hear the dog barking in the background.
No.
So if we did find that cases like went down, right? So like a case of police assault went down, less cops were charged, less people are reporting this. Like, why wouldn't you just still say, hey, well, it's not being reported. Hey, it hasn't gone. We don't see it in trial because there's no video of it. It seems like you're creating a situation where no matter what the situation actually is, no matter what the reality actually is, you can still say, oh, well, shit's not getting reported. So, and we know that stuff's happening that doesn't get reported.
Name two
No, I didn't
situations
say
that
that.
We
weren't.
just made the assumption here that, hey, most of the time it doesn't get charged. Most of the time it's not on video. Most of the time, like, we don't know about it.
I didn't say anything about reported, right? I said that we, meaning you, me, the nation, knows about it because it happened to be on video and it happened to go viral, right? We know about those situations or other situations that are video that we don't actually pay attention to. There are other situations that are reported, and that you have the DA who's investigating this, who takes it in front of the grand jury and does a shit job. You talk to the grand jury afterwards, right? And they're like, I don't hear anybody that shit. What are you talking about, right? Like, this evidence is not presented. The DA will literally tank the case. We've seen it before. Right, that's one of the police reforms that have to happen, or law enforcement reforms that has to happen, is that the DAs who work with the cops all the time should not be in charge of prosecuting those cops because of their established relationships.
I totally agree. Like, I'm not saying I agree with you that the police probably need more liability than they have now. They probably get away with committing crimes that they should be charged with all the time now. But what I'm also saying is that even if you fixed that problem, you would not entirely solve the problem of the encounters between police and the public being too dangerous for one or the other. I think that's not going to entirely solve the problem. You also have to somehow make those interactions less dangerous through some combination of having less laws, making less things be illegal, so the cops and the public are just encounter each other less, and changing the ways in which the police actually interact with the public so that they're not putting themselves in extremely dangerous situations for unnecessary reasons, like situations where this guy was selling pot on the street, and he's at home, but he might run, so you need like 10 guys with fucking rifles and bulletproof vests to kick down his door in the middle of the night and throw grenades and tackle him. They have to be not so aggressive and be willing to say, okay, maybe this guy will run. Maybe we might not even get our man, but it's not worth creating this extremely dangerous situation like that just to guarantee that we get him.
And also, like, another example with Ahmaud Arbery, the reason the McMichaels went 3 months without being charged after what I hope everyone agrees should have been a cut and dry situation was because the McMichaels a former police officer. Like, is it like, oh, he's a cop, he couldn't probably do anything. And like I said, the only reason we heard about that wasn't because of public opinion. It was because the one of the guys involved was like proud enough to put it online, to post the video and like, oh, what a great job they did.
Yeah, I would say that that's the exception. You know, a former cop, a retired cop who has like friends still in the police force, that's the exception to the rule, right? And obviously that was like a clear-cut case. But you're speaking as if like that's the case everywhere. Like DAs all over the country just tank the cases when it's a black person.
Amir Rice, I think Philando Castile. Like it's one.
Okay, you can name hold on. You can name like a handful of them. Again, hundreds of millions of interactions with police officers every year in this country.
I agree.
That's tiny percentage. But you're speaking as if like police are just going around executing people.
Yeah, that's not the argument I'm making. That's what I'm saying. Let me finish. I'm saying that you said that we couldn't name any examples in real life. I'm saying that yes, we can absolutely. Well, you said that like we couldn't name any like cases because we were being conspiratorial and saying.
That's not what
I
said either.
Wait, just let me finish, and then you can correct me what you didn't say. What I conferred what you said was that we were being conspiratorial, and we were saying that the cases where it happens that they weren't being reported, so we couldn't prove it. I was just naming a few cases that that were public opinion, like there were public news that the wrong outcome fell. That doesn't mean that like obviously all of these cases, if there was 5 a day, that wouldn't necessarily justify that there was a systemic issue across the country. But it's not just about murders; it's about the way that Black people deal with police on a day-to-day basis in this country, and maybe not just Black people, but it's predominantly an issue involving Black people. It's the police interactions that we can all speak to from our. Like every one of us have like personal experience with. Like this isn't something that we're just making up, and you're not going to be able to calculate it, but just by looking at deaths and just looking at how many the police agreed to being like.
I think you'll find that most people's interactions with the police, like when they have to have an interaction with them, are like negative experiences, right? So yeah, I don't think this the average Black experience is being chased down the street by a cop with a baton, right? So like. Again, I feel like you're massively overstating how much of an issue this is, and I feel like you're creating.
Why did you jump to that? Why did you jump to that hypothetical example? When did I say that most Black people were chased down the street?
Because you said, "Oh, our experiences with police." You know, I've had experiences with police. I know white people have had experiences with police that were bad, right? So, like saying, "Hey, this is like the Black experience, the Black experience with police officers," as if it's not a common fucking thing for police to be assholes to people, right? As if it's not a common thing for no matter what your race is to have a bad interaction with the police officer who pulled you over for speeding, or who's like questioning you and you feel uncomfortable, you feel like he's aggressive and is butting to your space or whatever the fuck. It's very common, right? Across all races.
This
You're
is the
attempting
worst.
to make
This is
this
the
like a
worst
black
argument.
issue.
I mean, I
It's
think
not
it is
even
a
it's
black
not
issue.
even it's not
You're
even
just
like
making
a
it
full
worse.
argument. It's acknowledging reality. What you're attempting to do is put yourself in the victim box, right? Because you're black, so you have special instances of like police interaction that are just totally outlandish, and we're not going to be able to understand because we're not black.
No,
Like,
I'm not
that's
saying you
just
can't
not the case.
understand, but you're saying this is overstated. I don't believe it's overstated. I believe if anything,
It's absolutely overstated. If Prime's on here like pretending they're execution squads and you're acting like all black people have these experiences where they're getting like beaten by the police and shit like that, you're
when
absolutely
did I say that
overstating it.
everyone was beat by the police?
What do you mean
When
when
did
you
I
say
say that?
the black experiences that black people that we can all speak to with police? What do you mean by that?
I'm saying unlawful interactions. Police doing something that crosses the
You
line
think
of their
the
authority.
average black person
Yes.
has had some unlawful
Yes.
interaction? No, that's
Absolutely.
you're overstating it.
I'm not.
Yes, you are.
And I'm
That-
not saying
what-
that doesn't mean that there's not exceptions to that. But I think the overwhelming majority of black people over their lifetime are going.
Why
to
would
deal
you
with it.
think that?
But because it
You
seems to
think
be
that
true.
all police are just racist? Like every single, even the
No,
black ones and the brown ones and the Asian ones are all
it's
just
not,
racist too?
It's not about them being racist. Again, I'm not making some weird straw man. I'm saying that police predominantly, like, there's only so many police, so they're going to go to areas of poverty because poverty is where crime is, and poverty is also where black people is. And black people do have, like, due to like systemic issues, like commit a different amount of crime. So police generally view black people as like a higher likelihood of being criminals, especially when they're from certain communities. So they're going to.
But the people who are victimized in those communities, and a lot of those communities are policed by black officers and brown officers because they live in the fucking area, right? The people that have been victimized there are also black and brown. So if that's your argument, why wouldn't they also assume that black and brown people are more likely to be the victims of crime because that's what they're interacting with?
I didn't say. I never said it wasn't. I'm not talking about the issue of the crime. I'm talking about the issue of the police. The crime is its own issue, but it's like you just tried to pivot to why don't we talk about black on black crime? That's not what. That's not.
No, that's what you did.
No, I'm saying that
you
I'm
brought
talking
up the
about
crime rate in
police.
black communities. I didn't do that.
Yes, but I'm saying that I'm talking about the reason you asked why do I you tried to straw man me and say that I thought that police were like being explicitly racist. I'm saying why black people are more likely to have these situations is because of.
I think it's because people like you fearmonger about the average black experiences that's made up.
What did I fear
About
about?
police execution squads. Police execution squads that are just going around executing people for pulling out their wallet and not getting punished for it.
Show me where I said.
I think it's absolutely fearmongering.
You can't address what I'm saying because you know I'm right. You had to jump to.
No, I agree. I agree that
close
there's a
to what
specific perception, but I'm telling you that it comes from people like you, people like Prime, who exaggerate the problem. It's
People like
about
Tim
police
and Prime.
execution
Why
squads
don't you just add
and
me at
who
that
are.
point?
No, we'll go. I
Like
love you.
Wiggles
Okay. Police execution squads that are just going around executing people for pulling out their
Never
wallet and
said
not
any
getting
of that.
punished for it.
No one said.
That's what Prime said. Prime said, "Oh, they don't get punished when they shoot somebody for pulling out the wallet," and that guy did get punished. So I feel like it creates this like false impression of what the interactions are actually like. And of course, when you're being beaten over the head with this false impression over and over again as a black person,
what makes you think it's false?
Just like I got as a brown guy growing up in East LA, you're gonna be afraid when you're interacting with police. You're gonna be more on edge, right? And the cops are gonna notice that you're on edge when you're talking to them, and maybe they'll treat you differently because you're on edge and you're making them feel on edge.
He can only make.
But like, it's a little bit like it's more than it's actually much more than that. It's like focusing on something that doesn't happen that often, that is egregious, and then there's the things that everybody finds annoying about police officers. Even police officers probably find annoying about other police officers when they don't recognize them as police officers, which is like like the idea of like traffic cops being really annoying, tickets, smaller infractions that you get just dealing in everyday life, especially in a city. Imagine you get an open container ticket. Imagine how that feels for the rest of your life, how you view police officers. If you're above a certain age and you're covering your beer or what have you, and you get an open container ticket, and now you have something on your record, you have to pay something, you have to show you're guilty, you have to say that you're guilty of something. Why? Just because you were drinking like a Corona or like a Bud Light in a container, walking down your favorite city in your everyday life. I think those are the things that affect the majority of people, and those are the things that affect our opinions on police the most. Not that the police officer will kill me, is that a police officer is an inconvenience. It's an extension of the tax man.
Yes, and again, this isn't just a racial problem. This is an everybody problem. Please do this to everybody. I don't know if
There's
I've
a
told this story
racialized element,
before.
but
Sure, but
we can
like
look
for
at what
example,
affects
the
everybody.
police came in and stole my mom's laptop. They stole it. They stole my mom's laptop. They just took it. And the
What
way
did
they
Hunter
got into
Biden
the
do on
house,
that laptop?
Civil
What did
forfeiture
your mom
sucks for
do with Hunter
everybody.
Biden?
Wick, civil forfeiture
yeah, that's what I'm trying
sucks
to
for
say.
everybody.
That's what I'm trying to say. That I think that when we tackle these issues, there are racial elements to it, no doubt. But we can look and solve the problem from a non-racial lens, and I think that might be more effective.
No.
For
You
me,
don't think so? Why not?
I think there's clear problems there. They're not the same. It's just the idea of I don't want to lose like the white population in fighting racial injustice and in policing. I can fight that fight with my black brothers. I can fight that fight with people of color. But I want white people to care about police injustice. So when I talk with these individuals, I'm going to speak about the things that affect all of us. I'm going to speak about the things that they care to talk about, the things that don't distance us. I'll talk about the idea that if you have a car, your situation with the police is instantly worse. If you're an individual that owns a vehicle, the rest of your life, you're gonna fear like police stops. You're gonna have this level of fear. Maybe it's not that you're gonna get shot. It's just that, hey, maybe I have bills to pay and I might get ticketed for something. I might have to speed. I might be a part of my everyday life. And now that I have to pay something for it, I have to deal with that. And so when I speak to those individuals, I'll talk about those injustices.
I'll answer Wick's question, then I'll go to a half baked take. Wick, you asked me why not? Why can't we do this in a race blind way? Because it's not, the problem isn't race blind. It's the problem. Look, you can say, and I absolutely believe, look, for my poor white brothers and sisters, right? The police harass them. It's absolutely the case. I know it. I see it. We've seen the police kill them, right? And so you tell me that they come in and like stole from your mother, right? Like, yeah, absolutely, 100% believe you. Yeah, that happened. But like, there are parts of this like what? Sorry. Like Wiggle. I'm sorry, I keep doing that. I do apologize. Like Wiggle was saying, right? There are parts that we have in common, absolutely. But the parts where we don't. Like, you can be a poor white guy, right? And the police in your area might know you're poor and might know, hey, we can harass this guy, and maybe he's a troublemaker, right? But look, that poor white guy can put on a fucking suit, right? Like, comb his hair, I go into a walk on Wall Street, right? And the police there won't have any idea, right? They'll treat him like everyone else.
You could be a police officer.
You could be a police officer. They put a uniform on.
You could be a situation where your annoyance is, wow, they didn't recognize I'm a police officer, and I'm going through a scenario where I'm being treated in a certain way by another police officer, and this just doesn't feel right. And then what do you do is, when you put on the uniform, you complain about it.
But when you're black, I can't take off my skin. So walking down Wall Street in that same suit, right? That doesn't mean that the police don't look at us the same. So like, so to say that we can solve it in a colorblind problem, you don't use those words, but like that's what you were moving towards.
I don't have any stats to back this up, but I would bet that the police are like vastly more prejudiced against people by the clothes that you wear than by the color of your skin. Like, a black person dressed in a suit on Wall Street probably going to be less likely for the police to be prejudiced against them than a white guy dressed in sort of like, if I could just streety, gang.
Well, more like
if I could just kind of explain myself here to Prime.
Precisely because
I'm not saying that there isn't a difference here. I'm not saying that there isn't racial elements to this. They're absolutely disgusting, absolutely horrendous, absolutely real. When we talk about effective rhetoric, when we talk about actually getting what we want, I think that the best strategy is to appeal to as wide as audience as possible, to appeal to all, like, because that's how we deal with things in an electoral system that we have, right? Like, we have to. It may not be just, it may not be fair, but I don't care if it's fair. If it works, let's do it.
I'm saying.
Yeah, what you want is different than what me, Prime, and Bam want. So we lower ourselves to what you want to get something.
Yeah, and that's what we
This is
do.
the only
with
issue we
the-
ever do this with.
Yeah,
we never do this with LGBT issues. We like, and that's not like a saying something bad about LGBT issues. They're important, but we never tell them like, hey, let's just talk about everybody. Like it always, this conversation only happens with Black issues, and it's time and time again that like this is we always jump to the all lives matter. But yes, and I'm not trying to say
I'll
you're
push
trying to say
back on that
that.
on that a
all
little
lives
bit
matter,
because the LGB community has oftentimes left behind the trans community, right? Like that's the thing that happens there. So, but I hear what you're trying to say. Bam.
I'm not saying you're a bad person, Wick. I'm not like, I think you're actually trying to be useful. Like I think you're like, I'm not saying you're like coming from a bad place, but I see it
Also-
every time we have these conversations.
Let's get to
Also, like, I mean,
Yeah, my bad.
if you practice Islam, and then there's showcases in some way, you are discriminating in a way nobody cares about in America. So that's a lot worse.
half-baked takes.
Well, some discrimination is reasonable. I'm not saying that discrimination is reasonable, but some is reasonable.
Half-baked.
Oh no! Everybody's making good points. I just wanted to stop back in and say it's all love, Prime. I had a long day. I had an 8-hour drive, so it's all love.
Yeah, I wasn't going to toss. You kept unmuting yourself in StreamYard. Everyone at home, you don't know this, but like, so we use StreamYard for video. This is what you're seeing here, right? And then we're in the Discord room for audio, and he kept unmuting himself in StreamYard. And when you do that,
bad.
we'll sometimes hear double.
If that was the case, I am so sorry, and I apologize, but I do want to all love.
Yeah, that's why I was going to take you off screen because you just Anyway,
Yeah, so, and one other thing that last username said, I'm sorry about that. Like he said that like, oh, it's probably closed. Like, I don't like when we deal with this hypothetical because we know like clothing is a part of culture too and a part of environment. So we can say who's more likely to be in those clothes in those environments. So it's like trying to abstract it doesn't really help people in everyday life because like that wearing a different type of clothes shouldn't subject you to worse treatment.
Yeah, but Prime was saying that you can't, that isn't about clothes. That even a black guy dressed up in a suit and walked down Wall Street, the police would still treat him really badly.
No. I was gonna give on that issue.
I just don't know.
No, so I was gonna last username. I was actually going to give ground on that issue, saying that I think you're right to a certain extent. But the stats are look. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you what the stats that you were asking for. I have no idea.
I mean, just think about it. Like, do you really think the cops are going to treat like what's going to make the most difference? Changing your skin from black to white, or going from like being in a bad neighborhood wearing thuggy clothes to Wall Street wearing a suit. That seems like that's going to make a much bigger
I'm also going to
difference.
I'm also going to add that like
whatever you think that means.
Police in New York City are like used to seeing black people and Latino people.
I didn't realize I was muted this
They're
whole
just
time.
shitty. They're just shittier. Like police in New York
like,
City.
why is no one listening?
Police in New York City, there's a shitload of them, and they're everywhere, and they're used to seeing like Latino people, Asian people, black people of all types, because New York City's so dense, etc. In their everyday lives, they're just also used to the same anonymity that most people experience. In New York City, you could experience something like where someone walks up to you and does something that is illegal in order to give you a ticket, and then puts you in a position where you have to prove it. And now you're an individual where you're in a tourist city. Like, they don't expect you, they expect you to like what like, are you gonna come to court in New York City? You're there on a weekend. Are you gonna like fly in, go to court, or are you just going to pay the ticket? Are you going to dispute what the officer says, etc.? And they operate with that level of power. If they see someone doing an action, they operate with the understanding of this is something we can get away with, or what have you. I don't think that would be the same in other areas of the country.
So we've gone way over time. But just to respond to last username, I'm gonna leave the thug clothes alone. But there is cops stop African Americans who are in, for instance, nice cars, right? Like cars that are very expensive all the time. Right? You could say, well, that guy probably he's driving that car, so he's probably has more money. He's probably upper class. I'm not gonna hassle that guy because we don't hassle upper class people.
An expensive car is different.
Why?
Like, because it's not hard to imagine a criminal having an expensive car. It is hard to imagine a criminal having an expensive suit walking down Wall Street.
No.
Come
I
on.
don't know.
I'm
I
saying
don't know. It's easy to imagine. Like, look
I'm
at
I
any
can
saying-
gangster
imagine
movie.
it, but it significantly reduces the odds.
think
that
about
they're
the fear
a
though.
criminal,
Think
right?
about the fear
Don't you
though.
think?
If you're in a car, that's one of the places that you should feel the most safe. And when do you feel unsafe? You feel safe. You'll feel unsafe when you see a police officer on the same road as you. Why? Like why? You
Everybody
feel like-
dies in cars. That's weird.
Yeah, but
I
it's
don't feel safe.
yours. That's where people keep their illegal items. That's where people hide their stuff from the family or what have you. It's theirs. It's one of the few things in life that they feel is theirs. And like, you feel free when you're in your own vehicle. And then
They made a
when
song
do you feel
about it.
when do you feel some level of fear? Is you're driving the same route you always drive, and now there's a cop on the same road as you, and now everything changes. All the schematics change. Everything changes.
Okay.
And they may not even be there for you. They're driving the same road for a completely different reason.
So we
I think
so you didn't get the chance to speak Stardust because you're a pro streamer and I didn't realize you were muted. So if you have something to
Yeah.
add, go ahead. But I don't want to take too much
Yeah,
time from people.
I was just gonna say that when we're talking about like these demographics and you're comparing them, like generally when you're looking at like let's say black versus white, you would want to look at like people within like a similar socioeconomic situation, people who live in similar neighborhoods at least, right? When you're looking at statistics like this. So yeah.
So I also didn't toss him. I didn't do it that time either. So anyway, let's wrap this up. We were going to continue on after this for our open walk-on panel. We have two apparently super spicy topics that people want to discuss, so we could discuss either of them or something else in the open panel. So stick around for that. It'll be great. We do this all the time. If you're enjoying this conversation, right, that we have, is conversation sometimes gets super fucking heated. Then hit that follow button. You haven't done so yet. Hit that follow button. Make sure notifications are on so you know I'm going live. We do this 7 nights a week. 7 nights a week. We are here, right? Exclamation point social and track to keep track of what we're doing. I'm on Twitter. I post what we're doing on Twitter. We're doing the whole thing, a debate tournament type thing. $1,200 on the line, right? If you didn't know about that, well, I guess you want to follow me on Twitter. You should probably check that thing out, especially if we start recruiting for that again. Might be a chance for you to be a part of that prize. You should probably jump on Twitter. Discords will have everything, right? Including open walk-on panel. Heart and soul of the community, be a part of the Discord. We'd love to have you there. YouTube is where you find the bots. If you missed anything, right? And it was a lot. Missed a lot. If you missed anything here, check out our YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, and consider becoming a YouTube member by hitting that join button. Support the channel that way. Okay. I'm going to give an outro to all these amazing individuals. I guess start with Half Baked Takes. I didn't toss them. But thank you, Half Baked Takes, for being here. We'll start with Bam. Bam, thank you for being around and being a part of all of this. This was a fun conversation, buddy. And you weren't the focus of my ire. Again, this is weird for us.
It is. Yeah, no, like really, really good topics. Good job, Stardust. Well, that sounded patronizing. It's like, I'm sorry. Like they were actually like, it was a lot of fun. But also not fun. Like it was like pretty heated for a minute. Like not the great. Could kind of heat it, but no, I'm here for it. This is what I do. Follow me, Black American Made. You all should be a little bit smarter from being in my presence. Thanks.
Wick, right? Who I'm always so happy to have. Seriously, like one of the most reliable guests like we have. And I disagree often like I did today, but like I love having him around. So I'm grateful for you, Wick, honestly. Wick.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and I'm grateful, even when we disagree. Honestly, you disagreeing with me helps me be a better person. It helps me sharpen my rhetoric, helps me sharpen my opinions, and sometimes you change my mind, Prime. It happens. I take what you say and what others say. I think about it. I'm like, oh damn, they're actually right. It's like a fucking superpower I feel on the internet to change your mind, but it's something that happens. So yeah, if you liked my takes, or even if you didn't like my takes, and you want to talk to me, come see me at twitch.tv/deathofcertainty, all one word. I stream Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Tomorrow I have my open call-in show where you can call in and get it off your chest with my lovely co-host, Kaylee Marie. And we take people's calls. We don't solve your problems, but we listen to you. And it's always a fun time. It's always good. Whether it be serious or lighthearted, we'll take all callers. So thank you again for having me. I'd love to be on more, obviously. And yeah, that's me. Thanks.
If you want to place the bitch on the internet, go to Death Attorney's channel. Thanks so much, buddy. All right, next we got my man Wiggle. Actually, wait a minute, what am I doing? You're last. I'm sorry, I apologize. All right, get in the back of the fucking line. Ashley, thank you for Ashley, thank you for coming through and sharing your perspective. Much appreciated as always. I'm not sure if this is the first time I've had you on the Reverie, but I definitely don't want to make this the last time. So shout out to you.
I think I've been on here before, but I think I'm. You have different names for your panels, and I sometimes have trouble keeping track. But I was on for the religion one. But I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate you inviting me. I always love being on here. I always love chilling. I hope I bring a unique take to some of these things. Am I boring you, Doobie?
Always.
Okay, good to know. Anyway, yeah, I am Lex of Legend in the chat. I do Black Desert, and I go around murdering people, and I talk trans issues. Yeah, that's what I do.
Thank you so much. All right, next we have last username. Thank you for being around, giving your takes. Right, last username, also a person that I feel like he spends his time with us. Right, like he's a smart guy. He's got things going on with his life. He's not like a regular internet degenerate like me and Stardust. No, he's got things going on. So it's extra special when he takes time out of his day to be here with us. Thank you, last username.
I'm a professional internet degenerate by day. That's the difference. Sum up this discussion. I think I hear a lot of when we're arguing about the police. I find a lot of the most common arguments seem to have a lot of kind of anger and sort of vindictiveness underlying them, and end up being kind of unreasonable, suggesting things that aren't really feasible and really come from just I want to screw over one side or the other. And I think I kind of don't blame people for doing that, because I think they feel like at some level there isn't any real practical solution to it. They feel like, well, this is a really tough problem. And that's frustrating. And when you're frustrated, you tend to like, well, fuck it. I'll just suggest this unreasonable thing out of frustration. But the thing is, there actually there's far more potential for solutions to this than I think people realize. I do a lot of thinking about this. The stuff I talk about on my channel is all about radical ways of reimagining the justice system and how it could work. And I think there's a lot more options that people don't consider, and things that could drastically improve the safety of law enforcement for police and for the public, and improve it in all sorts of other ways. And it would improve it if you think the police are racist. It'll improve that. If you don't think they're racist, it'll still improve it for everyone, whether they are or not. You could see major improvements. So check out my channel, and if you want to hear me talk about those specific solutions, last_username. And good to be here, as always. Good talking with you guys. It was a very good chat today.
Thanks so much. All right. Next, we have our Dark Lord and Savior, Doobie. Doobie. Thank you for coming through. Again, I disagreed with you a bunch too, but it's always fun when I get to do that.
Yeah, Prime, you're wrong all the time. So this isn't like a new thing. I'm gonna so for those of you who missed it earlier, long story short, a couple months ago, I did slander someone named Queen Alexa. With like some groomer accusations. It wasn't true. I thought it was true at the time. Turns out it wasn't true at all. I was wrong. I fucked up. Please join her Discord server. You can join mine if you want to, but I really, just to show some support, and also make up for my massive fuck up. If you could join her server, that'd be cool. Okay, thank you.
He's putting the link in the chat. Everyone, take a look at it. All right, we have Stardust. Seriously, thank you for the good topics. Turned out to a really good discussion. So shout out to Stardust for the help, and for kindly joining us.
Yeah, well, I didn't really do that much. I just suggested victim blaming, and then and then Prime made it into a question, and then the second thing I did was like punching cops, and then he made it into a second question. So I didn't really do that much, but anyways, hi everybody, I'm Stardust. You can find me twitch.tv/Stardust. It's spelled exactly how it sounds, and I'm here 7 nights a week as well, because I have no life, and I've decided to torture myself by spending at least 8 hours a day in complete darkness talking to myself. So if you like to watch somebody cover politics and purposely troll people and throw people off and sometimes debate people and yell at them, come check me out. Thanks.
Much. All right. And last, we have my man Wiggle. Wiggle, thanks for coming through and giving your very own unique perspective on all these things, right? You got a clear voice. I don't think not everyone has, right? So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's a nice way of saying nobody else has. Thank you very much. I really appreciated being on this panel. I mean, it was, normally there's like a question that I like, and then the other one that's like, the other one. Stardust, thank you. These questions, both of them were really easy. I didn't have to prepare much, and they were enjoyable to talk about. It's not usually that way. Also, interesting person. I didn't like talking to you at first, but then, you've shown, time and time again, you're a person that, if I disagree with you on something, you listen to what I say and then respond. A lot of times when I talk to someone, they just repeat the same thing. You don't. Wick, it's always always enjoyable to argue with you. So obstinate, but it's because you're obstinate that there's like a respect there. It's because I know that you don't shift your opinions. Like you have like conviction, and I don't like your opinions. So it makes it great to argue with you a lot. Bam, his camera's off, but honestly, Bam, he's just there's something about him. It's like when he's on a panel, you want to hear what kind of bullshit he'll say, because it's gonna be bullshit, but it's gonna be fun to parse out through the bullshit. And he's very enjoyable. He's an entertaining character. Ashley, this is the first time I was on a panel with you. Honestly, you brought it really hard on the first one. I was definitely rough because I don't agree with what you were saying, but you're a really enjoyable panelist there. And then you started your opening statement on the second topic. I felt you were strawmanned a lot. You didn't say a lot what people were saying. I do think what Germany did based on what you said is pretty based. Last username. I mean, it's always a pleasure. You're one of the few people where I feel guilty for cutting you off. When you said, "Hey, Wiggle, it was my chance to speak," I didn't show it, but I felt bad. Because it's
Forgive you.
You're it's the mic. It's always been the mic and the voice that gives you this daddy effect. Where I feel like fuck, I disappointed my dad. It's like that kind of thing. And then Doobie, I mean, honestly, I still don't know whether you're here all the time. I have a sneaking suspicion you watch Netflix or go do something and come back once in a while and you're like, oh fuck, they're expecting me to say something crazy. I still don't know if you're here all the time or whether you just
hold on,
keep
to be
the
clear,
volume.
I am here, but I'm gooning 75% of the time we're on this panel.
Explains.
You don't know what that is?
Tell
Look
us.
it up. Okay. Look, I'm just I've got needs. Fuck you.
Half-baked takes. He was here for a while. I've never seen him that angry about something, and it was good. I like that. I like it. It's always funny for me when conservatives get really mad about something and get ignored, because I'm I enjoy anger, and I don't get that from liberals. And I like people being passionate about their politics, and most of the time liberals just do that Sam Cedar bullshit of just going, I don't care, I don't really care. Is it really that big of a deal? Is it? And conservatives don't really do that. It's always a big deal and it's enjoyable. Prime, you were here. I mean, that's something, right? And I reiterate my original stance, which is, as long as Prime exists, profiting every single time there is black on black violence or police violence, or I'm going to speak about what to do in those situations. And anytime, as long as Prime exists profiting off of sexual assault cases so he can make his conversation topics about consent week after week after week, I will tell women to be careful, because there's primes out there. There's primes out there. Yeah, that's why you should be afraid, because there's guys like here who DM and profit off of sexual assault. All right, thank you.
Wow. All right, add all the other ones up together, right? Still don't equal Wiggles. Okay, all right. Thank you so much for that, and for the accusations. I appreciate all of you, whether you're on screen or not. I appreciate all of you. We are going to continue on to our open welcome panel right after this. Stick around, join us. I'm sure I'll be heated as well. Anyone here can join us, but if not, that's okay. Thanks for spending your time, your energy, your knowledge, and your passion. My community, I know they appreciate it just as much as I do. Thank you so much. And thank you, Doobie, for the 10 subs. Thank you so much. Shout out to Doobie. All right. Bye.